Okay, perfect. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the first official episode of SafeTay Talks, sponsored by Whip Around, where we talk everything about technology, compliance, and just have conversations around how we can cultivate the fleet industry. Today, I have Ryan Mangum joining me. He's the product manager over at Fullbay. Very impressive and lengthy background in anything from operations, IT, just cultivating different procedures and processes through multi-location services and shops, and now doing an incredible job, working on, what products are most important and making the biggest impact for shops in Fullbay. So Ryan, thank you so much for joining today. And I'll let you kick us off. Just give a little bit more detail. Would love to hear, more about your background and, what brought you to Fullbay.
Yeah, so I came out of an automotive shop. It was a mobile all the way to independent repair, basically was the main focus, working with fleets, multi-operation from operating from Hawaii all the way to Florida, operated in 32 states, so had a little over 100 people with the company, and I helped lead the operation with that company. We did use Fullbay. We had some products before Fullbase, so we kind of got to experience like, the problems of multi-location and
Mhm.
and trying to get simple reporting out. So Fullbay was a great product and really glad we actually have these conferences called Diesel Connect. And one of the product leads came out and kind of just said, "Hey, why don't you work for Fullbay?" So I decided to put my COO hat down and come over to Fullbay and help improve shop operations. And it's really exciting. I've been here over a year now, and one of my first projects was actually the whip around integration with Fullbay.
Very cool. How is that going from, being a customer now being behind the scenes and, really getting to see where the product is going?
It's actually really fantastic. So we actually had a Diesel Connect where I was actually a Fullbay employee recently in May. Got to meet some of the whip around CEO and COO as well and CTO, where you guys came and were presenting your product and really get to see how it affected the shops and like the we did a small little beta with one shop and actually got to see that expansion and see the need for it. It was
Mhm.
kind of an assumption, right, at first to see how Whip Around and Fullbay would work together. And the assumption really paid off. A lot of customers were just super impressed that we were going this direction. So it was very exciting to see the happiness of our customers physically, not only just through a phone call or through a Zoom.
Yeah, no, I will say, I think, Full Day Whip Around is definitely one of my, kind of favorite, most excited recent integrations that we have going on right now. I feel like we've always been, more in the telematics space. And, as we're getting more ingrained into maintenance and, listening to our customers and shop needs and, okay, well, how do we dip our toe in a little bit further and make it something a little bit more lucrative. And I don't think we could have really done that without you guys. So I've had, great feedback from Diesel Connect. It sounds like you guys had a really good show out there.
It was wonderful. And, like that's when you get to see your customers also tell you the pain points. So, yes, it was our first integration with you, and we'll call that like our first version, right? And, working on to version two and taking those pain points and applying them into the product is definitely our strong goal for this next piece into Full Bay to make sure that our customers, not only with that are using the whip around integration or working with fleets that have whip around, but maybe even ones that are managing their own fleets, right? That
Mm.
way we can, get their needs taken care of and allow both products to work together really good together.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say are some of like the bigger pain points that you guys have been addressing through this integration so far?
Yeah, so some of the ones that we've heard about is like, definitely the photo attachments. I think that's going to be, the next big one is bringing in photo attachments from when the driver is walking around performing the inspection and noting those defects. It would be really cool for the shop or even the internal shop, so that way they can see it in full bay too. So that way, not only is it in whip around and, hey, call the whip around owner and be like, hey, I need that photo to see kind of like what the driver reported. I'm not seeing it maybe just
Hmm.
get a better idea of what the driver saw. because sometimes things could get fixed. Maybe let's just say a wiper issue, right? You bring it into the shop and it's wiping just fine, but when the driver saw it, he couldn't see on the road. So like, those type of issues, like, hey, seeing the picture of what the driver's reporting allows the shop or whoever's repairing it to have better ideas. So definitely the photo attachments is something we want to bring in. And maybe I know that there's other things like severity and priority within whip around. So like looking to see those type of things that are reported that we've been brought to us and how we can, fix those issues that our customers are saying is a large need.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that. I think, especially too, kind of playing that back and forth of, the driver reports something and, I feel like you can skip so much of that back and forth communication if you just say, hey, here's the picture, I know exactly what I'm looking at. The piece that they're trying to refer to is perfectly annotated rather than, I have no idea what the heck this guy is trying to tell me. Let me call him and get him on the phone. But now they're on the road. And so I could see that bridging a big communication gap and just, getting a little bit quicker to, getting those fixes done when you know exactly what you're looking at.
Yeah, and I know another one that gets brought up a lot is like maybe the driver or there's multiple drivers in a vehicle, right? And they report the same defect multiple times. I know that can get really frustrating as like the mechanic when you have
Mm-hmm.
like maybe 15 defects of, hey, maybe like I hear a squeak, right? And you get 15 reports of a squeak, and maybe it's just because like, oh, hey, it's not like a DOT problem. We're not going to pull the vehicle off and it needs to be in service. But by the time it comes in the shop for maybe an inspection or something, like seeing 15 reports can get a little frustrating. Like where only one gets resolved, but all these duplicates are there. And that's definitely something that we've heard and we're looking to solve. So we have ways within Fullbay like where you can merge all or take those defects and put them onto one service order. But maybe there's a way that we could merge them together. But that's something that we are investigating and seeing on our side if we can solve or seeing what we can do about those reports that are similar.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely sounds, I can actually hear almost like the strategy behind it, your operations hat coming out. Do you think, having such that extensive, operations background, has that really helped a lot in this product role, just being able to prioritize, what comes next and being able to really kind of dive into, where these pain points are and, how to decide what you guys work on next?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was definitely a really cool experience to have that and to deal with the operations side. And definitely, I think it helps out sometimes in the product realm. Sometimes I solution the wrong problem, so that can also come out in the operations side. So then it's been a happy little medium of trying to learn when to pull the operations hat out and maybe when to just do more listening and hear it. Try not to solve the problem for myself, but try to solve it for, all our customers.
Yeah. And I'm kind of curious, even just outside of the whip around integration, with you coming into Fullbay, everything you've seen the last year, what would you say are kind of some of the biggest upsides? If a shop were to use Fullbay, what are they really getting out of the system that they wouldn't have, before using you guys?
I think one thing about like Fullbay itself is utilization. So like one thing I think like if you're running an internal shop and you're using Fullbay for your maintenance platform, it's one thing that's really nice is also to get tech utilization. Like, me coming out of the operations side, I wanted to make sure that, what was one way we could get technicians to be able to be, at their highest utilization. Sometimes when you're running an internal shop, or an independent fleet, right? You have your hourly guys and you see them looking busy, but sometimes you lose on the utilization portion of it. Like, hey, maybe this job only calls for 3 hours to do the starter, but it's been 3 days in the shop for a starter. What's going on? Being able to ask those questions, I think Fullbay really brings that out to light. And, for an independent shop, that's not, that's something that they really care about in the independent shop world is like, is my technician bringing in money? But or the internal fleet side, they get very comfortable sometimes. And maybe the technicians could be, like maybe, oh, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee and that's an hour, like you lose track of that a little bit easier in the independent or the internal fleet side. So I think bringing that into the internal fleet is going to be very helpful using Fullbay product. And then also with the whip around integration, now you have a little bit better connection. Like if you're an internal fleet and you have drivers on the road, now you're getting these service requests in Fullbay. So it's kind of like a way to have a little bit more communication with your fleet products, which is sometimes one of the biggest complaints in the fleet world is you lose track of the maintenance to operations side of your internal fleet.
Yeah, it's interesting that your last point you brought up. I was actually just in a conference recently and they were actually talking about, the folks that are right in the front lines and you have, your operations team over here and then you have your maintenance team here. And I think from high level, especially for me coming from more of the software world, you'd always, almost assume that those two worlds are, kind of under the same hat, or even, you have a safety team and a safety director, and you have your maintenance and operations maybe working together, but they're not on the same page. So it's interesting to kind of hear some different companies chime in and where they are, seeing almost a lack of communication. And, it's harder to get your processes all aligned and moving together when, you have one team saying, well, this is what I think we need to do. And then maintenance is doing something completely different, either because they don't have the right communication put into place via technology, or, maybe they're missing certain preventative maintenance because they just don't have that structured properly. I feel like one little kind of notch in that can really throw off the whole, the entire operation. So it was an interesting conversation. And it seems like Fullbay would be a really good product to kind of help bridge a gap and companies that are having that type of issue where, safety operations and maintenance are not on the same page.
Yeah, and I think another big issue is like if you get a DOT audit performed on your company, maybe a safety issue happens. Maybe the driver got in an accident and it was severe and there's an investigation going on. Being able to pull up your maintenance records and being able to have that information when that happens and even seeing the flow of the whip around service requests coming into Fullbay and being able to link them to those service orders being completed, it gives you a little bit better maintenance history and a connection. So I think that's also a really big piece to, helping ensure you're running a safe fleet and, being able to handle those audits when they come.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I've actually heard, how many times, oh, he's been running the shop for the past 40 years and he's got it all right here. But, I think sometimes the easiest way to talk to folks that have been, doing the same thing for years is, hey, just cover your butt, even if you have
Yeah.
it all right here and you think, oh, I got my whiteboard and I can follow my maintenance. I mean, that's not going to cut it for an audit. So I think I've almost learned to say, well, hey, well, if an auditor walks in or there's an accident, they're not going to say, oh, well, it's right here. So how are you covering your butt in those scenarios? And that documentation goes such a long way. I mean, it's going to save you downtime. It's going to save you money. And, that's at some point it could take you out of business, unfortunately. I think it's something a lot of folks need to pay more attention to.
Exactly.
Well, so, obviously the integration you said was one of, kind of your bigger projects coming in. What other things going on? I don't want you to give away any secrets, but, is there anything else that you're really excited that's going on in Fullbay right now, or, just, in the technology fleet space in general?
Yeah, so I actually was just on a call just a little bit ago today, talking a little bit about our whip around version 2 that we're wanting to put out. So definitely that is something that we're cooking up right now, is making sure that whip around version 2 for Full Bay is in the works. So that way we can address some of those issues that we brought up. Maybe we won't be able to address all of them, but we definitely want to make sure that we have a good solid product, at least even at the minimum, bringing in those photo inspections to our customers so that way they can see that data that's coming in, like, hey, what was the exact issue that the driver
Mhm.
reported? Because like you mentioned earlier on the call, you don't want to have to call the manager or call the fleet manager and then they have to like try to find out how to get to a hold of the driver, especially if it's a big company, right? And maybe the driver forgot. It's like, I don't remember, like maybe to help solve some of those issues, bringing in photos, I think would be very helpful for the, down to the repair shop, whether it's independent repair or an internal fleet. They need to see those photos, and it helps that communication line that you talked about a little bit earlier.
Now, I'm curious, Ryan, kind of more of your play in the background here. I mean, are you, more involved in the roadmap? Or are you heavily involved in the beta testing behind this? Like what does your day to day look like as the product manager for Fullbay?
Yeah, so I mean, so we definitely think about like betas and what we can put into play. I have a little bit more of a focus on domains. We really started shifting our PMs focusing on areas, and so I'm in the area of working with our integration partners and also our financial side. So those are two key areas that I've been working in since I worked with Fullbay. So it's really exciting to really get that solidified and in those focus points. So I look at the large roadmap and how we're going to build it out for the future, and I bring that down to our PO levels. So we have product owners that really own those specific
Mhm.
domains that help build them out.
Yeah, well, definitely sounds like you guys have quite the team over there.
Yes, we have been growing, and it's been fantastic to see Fullbay
Yeah.
grow. Of course, there's always growing pains in any company, but it's really exciting to see the right people come into the right positions. We have a fantastic group in our product team, and I'm exciting. It's really exciting to see all the way from designers, all the way, to our product owners and managers, and then just seeing our growth in our engineering team. It's wonderful to see where Fullbay is going. I am so excited for our future and not just to, I came from, executive leadership. So it's very exciting to see this, like no joke. I think Full Bay 2026 and further is just going to be one of the grade A products out there. There'll be no exceptions on the market. People are just going to think Full Bay and be like, I want to use it.
Yeah, well, we're seeing it over here. Obviously we were super excited to integrate with you guys because we can definitely see that explosion of growth. I've been with Whip Around almost 6 years now. So I kind of get that excitement, and you kind of come in right when something's, just starting to pick up. And then once it takes off, it's a lot different. You actually feel like you're really a part of something. So I can definitely feel your excitement there.
Yeah, and it'll be exciting
Yeah.
for any whip around users or even full bay users. If you're interested in using full bay, Diesel Connect is coming up. You can always go to the full bay website and see that. Diesel Connect is a wonderful place to even talk to your whip around folks. I believe they're coming to this next one as well, and like see them and see how the product works together with other customers. And it helps like collaborate because one thing that's really hard in our industry is networking. Which show do I go to, right?
Hmm.
And I think if your primary focus is like how do I beef up my maintenance side? How do I beef up my problem solving side with talking to the maintenance shops? Come to a Diesel Connect and feel that. Like not trying to advertise that, of course, but like I've been to every one that Full Bay offered, from a customer all the way to being an employee, and it's fantastic to see the network thing that happens and the problem solvings that you can bring.
Well, I can't imagine better networking at a conference than getting hired by them. So that speaks for itself right there. What I guess if you could kind of look into the future, 5 to 7 years now, in full day, what do you kind of see for full day that would really take it to that next level, as you said, and just be everybody needs to use full day?
Man, so like just from what our strategy, of course, is, I can't reveal the details, but I can definitely say that I think that Fullbay is going to be very friendly from, hey, I'm just an owner. I'm just by myself. I think we're going to be a lot more friendly to
Hmm.
the one-man shows all the way up to the enterprises. That's one thing that we're looking to, build in Fullbay is making sure how do we become the commercial leader out there. And I think that with that focus point out there, I think Fullbay is going to find the way to do that. We have a lot of people involved in this on how we can be the best product on the market for your shop. And then also, if you're running a fleet, we want to be able to find ways to solve every which way possible for you and in your needs. So like that's one thing I think Fullbay is going to really hit the nail on the head on in the next 5 to 7 years. And today, for your independent shop, I think Fullbay really hits a lot of check marks to be able to make sure that you're running a good shop.
Yeah, that's what everybody needs, right? Is that good organization. I know here over at Whip Around, defect management is something that we've really wanted to dive into. I think, we have great tools for folks to, get their inspections and make sure that they're not, obviously missing things that are extremely important to keep a healthy and safe running fleet. But if you're not, managing those defects on the back end correctly. And, we have the tools to do that, and you guys have the tools to do that. But, obviously it also takes the human power as well to make sure that they're using the software properly. Would you have, any advice for any, shop owners or fleet managers out there on, just in general, just defect management and just ways to keep more organized with technology?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I mean, in the simple terms, like, I think that with, Fullbay itself, having that repair history in the vehicle, seeing those service reorders come in or the service requests come into Fullbay, and building them out and making sure you're closing them out. So that way, not only is Fullbay syncing with whip around, right, to show from, hey, I got a new defect to an in progress to completed on your side. Just making sure that you're utilizing the processes. And if you have any questions about like, the full beta whip around integration, on how it works, I mean, full bay support is there, especially if you're a new customer with full bay, we give you an onboarding specialist, right? Making sure those
Mhm.
questions get asked in that. So that way you can ensure that you have, the whip around side completed and also the full bay side completed to ensure that you have that compliance all the way through.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I've been attending a lot of these, fun, compliance conventions and seminars, and I think, sometimes it goes over some folks' head because it can be a tad dry, but I mean, it's there. I feel like they're cracking down more than ever on safety and compliance all around the board. So, we're very thankful to have you guys as an integration and just make us a little bit more powerful. And hopefully we do the same for you guys. So that way we can keep folks, just keep moving efficiently and keep their shops in order and vehicles on the road, right? That's what we're all here for.
Oh, 100%, especially like when those DOT rules and regulations change so often. I
Mm-hmm.
remember being at my previous company and they would always send us these books, like, additions to our big binder that was already massive. And being experts on those compliance regulations can be very difficult. And, making sure that your paperwork's in line, I think is definitely important, but it's nicer when you can have like electronic ways to manage it. And I think Fullbay does a good way of doing that, with the whip round integration.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I'll leave you kind of with just one last question, and obviously I can see the excitement behind everything you guys doing over there in Full Day. What would you say is just the kind of the most exciting part of your job and your role over there? What gets you out of bed every morning?
Oh man, just knowing that we're solving
Yeah.
problems for shops. I know that, there's so many problems with being in a shop, right? And there's ways that you run your shop differently. And being finding a way to be able to solve multiple problems for our shops is a very exciting for me. Like knowing that, hey, I got 100 customers that reported the same issue. How do we solve it for all of them? And finding the best way from, the one man show all the way up to here. How do we solve that? And that's very exciting for me, being able to wake up and find out, hey, we're solving problems. We're trying to figure out how do we make your shop run better. Those things are the most exciting piece on my end because coming out of the shop and knowing that, there's a software out there that's actually working hard to solve them, is exciting because sometimes we were with a previous software where, like we were bringing up issues and it's like, hey, this is a big problem for us, but we just didn't get a response at all, like even
Mhm.
years of using the product. And then bringing it up to Fullbay, having, the support team, getting emails, and then maybe it may have taken a month or two and seeing something be resolved that we thought was big and pressing. Maybe we won't be able to solve everything, but just
Mhm.
being able to even, find ways to make you go a little bit easier every day. And sometimes one of the most exciting things is when I was running a shop um, and seeing like, hey, a fix may have come out that I didn't know I needed, and I applied it, and it's like, wow, that really improved things. So I think those kind of gotcha moments to help the
Mhm.
shops, I think are always going to be fantastic. And those definitely make me excited to be part of Full Bay.
Yeah. And you mentioned, some of the headaches having a previous software. I'm sure at the time it wasn't enjoyable, but I bet you that actually plays a huge role in how you're a product manager now and working behind the scenes at Full Day. Because I would think that you would kind of be like, well, I want to make sure we were never like that. Let's learn from all the experiences I didn't like with something else I used. How do I switch that around and make sure that it's the best experience at Full Day? Do you think back to those experiences when you're applying yourself to the product here at Full Day?
Oh, 100%. I know like especially the diesel connects, like being able to talk to the customers this last year and just see them and being able to like, really sometimes you get sympathy, but also being able to add some empathy because like, you felt those pains.
Hmm.
I think it's a different piece and being able to show that and just like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. Let me see what we can do and being able to find solutions to those problems is definitely important. And, like actually being able to feel it and give that customer the respect of, hey, this is what I suggest, or this is what we can do, or work and try to find how we can make that, a solution for them in the future is definitely so exciting because like I didn't get that before. So 100% that
Yeah.
definitely plays into my job every day.
Yeah. Now, are you getting are you able to go and do on-sites? Are you visiting with some of these shops and customers of yours?
Yeah, so actually, because we're not just in the United States, we actually got to go to Canada. That was exciting. So we got to take our product team and go out there and see a shop that was having some issues, and we got to find some ways to give them solutions. So we do customer visits. We do have a lot of customer visits that have actually just happened recently. So not only, from, my level, but even my bosses, get on planes and go look at customers and see how things are going to see how the product's improving. So it's not just, people at the lower end of the totem pole that are going out. I mean, these are, high level executives that are leaving Fullbay and making sure that they can feel the pains in the shops or seeing what's working and what's not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that you clearly contributes to the success that you guys have had and the growth. I mean, you really need to have that everyone up to the high level boots on the ground. It makes such a big difference when you're like on the scene and with the customers and really seeing what they're seeing and they're dealing with the day-to-day basis. I think, it's so easy to have all these high ideas, even at whip around of what we think a customer, would need. But, we've learned years ago, the biggest thing is let's just go out and ask them. Let's have conversations with the folks that are using our tools every day, something that we might think is a priority. We've completely shifted our roadmap, in the past just because of all the feedback we've gathered from customers and, going on sites everywhere from, I actually was just at a quarry, recently getting to see everything from how they drill to, how they're creating asphalt and, kind of being out there and seeing just this massive equipment. I've been on a ton of on sites. I hadn't seen equipment that large before. And it really puts things in a perspective of, just one man operating this giant machine and how do we make sure that it's running smoothly and it's safe and there's a lot to it. So it definitely goes a long way when companies are actually out there and speaking with the folks that are using their products. So very glad to hear
No,
that
100%.
you're doing that as well.
I love how you mentioned that. Like you mentioned the big equipment, because like I think sometimes even when you think about repair management or repair shop software, you think about it like the most thing you could search Google for is you're going to find stuff that's going to be for like light duty automotive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes beyond that. It's not just a light duty automotive vehicle. You got, heavy trucks, you got golf carts, you got, tractor trailers, you got all, construction equipment, you got stuff that never sees a highway, like you pointed out. So it's so amazing in the full bay world to see our customers that work on such a plethora of vehicles and in equipment. And it just helps you think that it's like, hey, am I designing this just for this, or am I going to be designing
Mm-hmm.
it for that? So it's definitely very exciting and definitely yes, it
Yeah.
can shift the roadmap for sure when you just get out of your little box of what you're excited about, be like, oh, this is going to help all the customers that service this one product, and then you find out it's like, oh, our customers actually service not that product. We need to do
Mm-hmm.
something that services more customers.
Um, Cool. Well, any last words, Ryan, for any folks that are listening that might not be as familiar just yet with Fullbay or the whip around Fullbay integration?
Yeah, feel free to come on to fullbay.com and set up a demo if you're interested in repair management software. Definitely I think that it's going to help you out, especially if you're running an internal fleet and you've never heard of utilization. Come on by and get a demo and see how maybe, utilization in your shop would be important. And then also like, Fullbay itself is a great shop management platform. So if you need a way to manage your shop and maybe your current software is not doing the best, take a demo. Come on to fullbay.com, talk to our chat, make a phone call, and get an appointment scheduled with our sales team, and we'd be more than happy to help you along.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we said, folks, all our whip around listeners out there, it is an incredible product. It's a great integration. We're super excited for, the 2.0 to come out and everything we have on the horizon. We're just one more step into taking your fleet maintenance and your shop maintenance and just everything to the next level. And we hope to catch you guys all at Diesel Connect. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate speaking with you today. I'm sure this won't be our last conversation, but again, it's just, just so great working with you guys so far, and really appreciate your time today and just telling us a little bit about yourself and all the great things that we have going on right now.
Well, thank you, Taylor. Thank you for setting this up.